Let me read to you a passage from the 10th chapter of St. Luke's Gospel, verses 38 to 42. It's the Gospel for Tuesday of the 27th week in Ordinary Time. St. Luke writes, "As Jesus and his disciples were on their way, he came to a village where a woman named Martha opened her home to him. She had a sister called Mary, who sat at the Lord's feet listening to what he said. But Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. She came to him and asked, 'Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me to do the work by myself? Tell her to help me.' 'Martha, Martha,' the Lord answered, 'you are worried and upset about many things, but only one thing is needed. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken from her.'" That's from Luke chapter 10, verses 38 to 42. What does it suggest to us? Well, I know of an outstanding 2-volumed life of Christ entitled The Mystery of Jesus, which, in its treatment of this gospel passage today, places Mary, the sister of Martha, at the centre of the scene. Yes, Mary's action of sitting at the Lord's feet, listening to what he said, is held up as more important than being worried and upset about many other things, such as the serving. But the focus is surely on Martha. Decades after the event, it was recorded by Luke for the sake of the church. And in the Gospel of St. John, Martha and Mary, together with their brother Lazarus, have an entire chapter devoted to them, and in it, Martha's example of faith in our Lord is an instance of the faith that gospel is designed to produce. Martha professed before Jesus that he was the Messiah and the Son of God, and this profession of faith was followed by Christ's raising of her brother Lazarus from the dead. Luke, the author of our gospel today, also knew of Martha, and in our scene today, it is she who welcomes Jesus into her home. She takes the initiative in giving this welcome and showers upon him the service she desires to give to him. We read elsewhere in the Gospel that the apostolic band with Jesus at their centre was, in their travelling, assisted by some women who supported them out of their means and attended to what was needed. Martha was of this stamp. She loved our Lord. She recognized him for who he was and wished to serve him with all her heart. We ought also remember that Martha is celebrated in the Church's liturgical year as a saint. The evangelist, in presenting her loving service to the Christian reader, wished also to record a correction our Lord was remembered to have given. Do not get distracted away from Christ by all the business that is part and parcel of serving him in the life of the church. Martha was an image of the one who serves Christ and his church. And this work of service can lead to irritation, anxiety, and even annoyance with others. The one thing necessary can on occasion be forgotten, at least partially. What is this one thing necessary, which the Christian must always be doing? It is to have one's heart focused on the person of Jesus and to be listening to his word with the desire to put it into practice. And Mary, the sister of Martha, is an image of this. On another occasion in the Gospel, our Lord was teaching a group of his disciples before a crowd, and word came through that his mother and his relatives were outside desirous of seeing him. His response was to point to the ones before him and say, "Here are my mother and my brothers. Whoever does the will of my Father in heaven is my mother and my sister and my brother." What matters to our Lord is that we listen to him in love, with the resolve to put his word into practice. We remember how, at the beginning of his public ministry, our Lord and his disciples attended the wedding feast of Cana, where the wine ran out. And Mary, the mother of Jesus, having informed her son that the wine had run out, told the servants to do whatever he tells them. The changing of the water into wine followed, but the words of Mary are what is important. The Christian must listen to Christ and do whatever he says. On another occasion, our Lord, using the example of building a house, said that it is the man who hears his words and puts them into practice who is building on rock. In our gospel scene today that I read earlier, Mary, the sister of Martha, her action is held up before Martha. Martha, who is the example of loving welcome and service of Christ, as something she must always remember. Do not get lost in the service of Christ to the point of partially forgetting Christ himself. The one thing necessary and which Christ himself desires is that we keep the attention of our hearts on him and on his will, on his word. It is this which, in the particular circumstance of our gospel passage today, Mary, the sister of Martha, was doing. Our Lord wishes Martha to take advantage of her example, and Luke holds it up for the benefit of all Christ's faithful, all readers of his gospel. Perhaps Luke saw this event as particularly instructive for him and his companions, who were so much part of the grand and very busy missionary enterprise of St. Paul. Let us who are followers of Jesus Christ every day keep before our minds our primary ambition. It is to love Jesus with all our heart, for he is our Redeemer and our God. We must not let our work of serving Jesus, with its possible distraction, worry and irritation, cloud our hearts and diminish his presence in our souls. The cares of life can distract us away. Rather, in the midst of these cares, the one thing necessary is that we keep our mind, our heart and our soul focused on Jesus. This requires a regime of prayer, spiritual reading, sacraments and general recollection. We must be contemplatives in action, persons whose vision is ever on Christ, precisely in the action of life that is our particular calling.